I have been away from my garden for about 10 days due to the heat, and then we were away on a trip for a few days, and so I'm really just coming back to my garden. It hasn't had much of my attention for quite a few days, so I'm going to show you what it looks like, what happens when I've been away from it, and what I'm harvesting, what I am planting, and all the things that are going on in my garden on July 1st. This is my no-dig, small-scale heirloom garden, and I'm just gonna show you what it looks like, all of the things, the good and the bad, of what's been going on here. I have my handy dandy wagon, my harvest baskets, my hoe, and my pruners. And I'm just gonna go through and really check things out because I haven't been able to thoroughly check out my garden for the last few days. And I'm just gonna take you along and show you kind of what I do as I'm looking through things to see what's going on and what needs done. In this first bed here, I've got some lettuce. I didn't get this harvested, and so it grew and what you call bolted, and it's getting ready to bloom. These are the blooms. These will open up and be a yellow flower. I'm actually gonna let that one bloom for pollinators and beneficial insects. It's not in my way right now, so I'm just gonna let it do its thing, and then it will eventually go to the compost pile. Got a nice row of carrots here. I've been harvesting a few, but I'm gonna let them get a little bit larger. And kohlrabi here that we've been harvesting some and letting some continue to grow and get a little bit larger. We're actually gonna have some kohlrabi for supper tonight. And some sweet alyssum for beneficial insects. This is also some kale that flowered, and I left it for beneficial insects, and you can see there's hoverflies all over here. They're good guys in the garden. They'll help with they'll help keep pest populations in check. I've got 2 rows of beets here that I sowed early spring, and I've been harvesting a beet every few days for really the last month. We eat them a lot raw in salads. I'll just peel them, slice them up kind of like you would a carrot, and put that in our salads. They're really, really good that way. There's so many ways that you can eat beets, and I love to grow multiple types of beets. So I actually mix a bunch of beet seeds together so that we have a variety. In fact, you can see here I have a golden beet, an albino beet, which is white, and then a red beet here. That might be bull's blood. I'm not sure which variety that is, but I would say that albino beets have a slightly milder flavor, and they're a beautiful white color. Golden beets are just absolutely beautiful yellow, and I really love the flavor of those. And what I like about those two is that they don't bleed like red beets, so they don't get all over everywhere. But I do still like the flavor of red beets, so I like to grow a variety of those and plant beets all throughout the season so that we always have a few beets to harvest. This is my Swiss chard here. I prefer charred leaves on the small side, and so last Thursday I cut these plants way back. I mean, like, I cut everything except for leaves that size. And so in just a few days, they have all these leaves here, all this new growth. And I'll come back in and I'll cut those out. Some of the larger leaves I'll probably cook. I like to lightly saute them, add a little bit of lemon juice. Sometimes I'll add garlic. But they're really, really good like that. The smaller leaves we'll put in salads. And here we've got peppers. This is fish pepper. This is one of my favorite peppers to grow. It has beautiful variegated leaves, and it gets green and white hot peppers. This is a tiny Tim tomato. It's got some tomatoes coming. I actually saw some of the plants over at the greenhouse are starting to turn, their fruit is starting to turn red. So it won't be long until we have tiny Tim tomatoes. This basil plant is doing great. I'll harvest some of that today. And this is Alaska nasturtium. You can see it also gets the variegated leaves on it, which is so pretty. You can eat those, you can add those to salads, and it looks like it's gonna bloom here pretty soon. And this is Ice Queen lettuce that I just planted last week. It's supposed to be a heat tolerant lettuce. I haven't actually tried it yet, so we'll see how that goes. So that's what's going on in that bed. I'm just gonna continue harvesting, and probably as space becomes available, I'll tuck in more lettuce. So we have a constant supply of lettuce. This bed here probably is gonna need my most of my attention today. These Desiree pea pods, they were beautiful purple flowers and purple pods, but we really didn't care for the flavor. So those are gonna go on my list of not grow again. And I'm going to actually pull these plants out. You can see some of the plants are looking a little bit rough. They've kind of reached the end of their life cycle, and we're not really gonna eat many more of them anyway. So those will come out and go to the compost. And in their place, I'm gonna probably plant cucumbers to climb up the trellis. And here is some more lettuce that bolted. I will also take that out. It will go to the compost pile. It's actually beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful, like, Christmas tree of lettuce. That will go to the compost pile. I have basil, alyssum, calendula, and another fish pepper here. But once I pull that lettuce out, I will plant something else in there. I'll see what transplants I have available, and I may put some beets in that space. You know, I know there's lettuce there now, but I may put some more lettuce in there because it will actually get a little bit of shade in the afternoon from the dill. The dill is doing really well. I direct sowed this dill back in March, and it is beautiful flowers, beautiful. It smells amazing too. And you can see there's beneficial insects all over that. So I'm kind of gonna let them enjoy it because I don't need any right now. But then I will pull the seed heads and use those for pickles later on. You can also harvest the leaves and use them fresh or dry them. I will use some fresh in salad dressings and salad, and occasionally I'll dry some to use later in pickles or a homemade ranch salad dressing. Some more kohlrabi here, a weed, and some lettuce that I tucked in. Can't remember this variety, but it's another heat tolerant variety. I'll look that up and let you know what that is. And then this garlic, this is Georgian crystal garlic, and I will most likely harvest it today or a little bit later this week. It could stay a little bit longer, but it has really nice bulb sizes. And I want to use this garden space to plant some more crops, some squash, Brussels sprouts, beans, other transplants that I have ready to go in the garden. So this garlic will come out. To harvest garlic, I just pull on it. If it seems like it's not gonna come, I'll use a fork or a shovel to just loosen the soil. I don't actually dig it out. I just loosen the soil so that I can pull the garlic out. But I just reach down right soil level, kind of wiggle it back and forth and pull that out. That bulb's a little on the small side, but that's okay. I will, like I said, I will harvest these. I have plenty of garlic, so I'm not super concerned about getting gigantic bulbs. And I'd rather harvest them a little bit early before leaf miners or other pests and diseases get to them. So I harvest them and then I cure them in the shade on some drying racks or just metal racks. I let them cure before I put them in our storage room. I see a few weeds, but not many, which is a huge advantage to no dig and deep compost. My tomato plants have been growing really well. I will come through later and prune some of the lower leaves and some of the suckers just to keep them a little bit more neat and tidy and help with airflow, and also trellising them. I love the cattle panels, but it does require a little bit of training the plants, and so I just tuck them back through and make sure that they're, you know, kind of weaving back and forth through the trellis. This tomato plant I planted at the end of May, or sometime maybe the 3rd week of May. This one I planted a week ago, so you can see the difference, but this one is really gonna grow fast and catch up too. And there's one of my volunteer sunflowers that's getting ready to bloom, actually. Over here, we've got some more garlic. This is Georgian Fire. It is also about ready to come out. I may let it go one more week, or harvest it later this week, depending on how many more transplants I have to put in. But I've been interplanting, so I have basil already in there. That's a weed. I have a pepper plant back in there. Some dahlias here and calendula. Look at this tomato plant. It's got this nice giant stem. I'm gonna have to train it back a little bit. This is a black strawberry tomato, and it's got some fruit on it there, doing really well. Some of these lower leaves have some spots on them. Not super concerned about it. I'll prune those off today. And then my broccoli. It's been a little bit of an odd year for broccoli, but I've actually gotten broccoli, which is exciting. This one, I cut the main head off last week, and it is making some small side shoots, which is why I left them in there. This I need to harvest today. You can see it's getting ready. It's kind of loose. It's getting ready to bloom, but I'll harvest that today and we'll eat that. And it's got some, this is a side shoot, because you can see there I already took the main head off. So that's a nice side shoot. I'll harvest these side shoots. There's some more side shoots over there, which is, again, why I leave these plants to keep growing. It increases your harvest. Some really nice kohlrabi over here. Look at that one. I'm planning to make scalloped kohlrabi. We'll see how that goes. Maybe an evening this week I'll make that. This is my next row of beets. They need a little bit more time, but the nice thing with beets, and especially with using them in salads, is if I needed to, I could even come and take that small beet or that one there and eat them fresh like that, but we don't actually need to right now, so I'm gonna let them keep growing. Celery tucked in there. Chives that I've been harvesting like crazy, and they just keep coming back, which is awesome. And radishes that we ate quite a few from, and then they bolted and bloomed, which again I'm okay with. They're actually really pretty flowers. These are purple, these are white, and the insects are enjoying those. I will probably harvest or pull all of these this week to make space for, I don't know, I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna plant there. So I'll leave them until I know for sure what I'm gonna plant there. Maybe some lettuce, maybe some beans, we shall see. Otherwise, I might leave them until I'm ready to put in some more of my fall crops. Some more tomatoes growing there. And over here, I had row cover on these cucumbers. I saw last night, I pulled the row cover off real quickly because I saw that they were blooming and really running out of space under the row cover. But I had the row cover on to keep cucumber beetles off of them. It worked. Now you can see there is a cucumber beetle down there that already found them. But usually once the plants get established like this, they are fine and will outgrow the cucumber beetles and other insects. And now that the row cover's out of the way, they'll start to climb up the trellis, which also helps protect them from cucumber beetles. Cucumber beetles like to be able to hide, and they like to be near the soil surface. So as the cucumbers go up the trellis, I see less damage the higher up the trellis, which is great. These are icicle radishes that I planted at the suggestion of a local homesteader to help deter cucumber and squash pests. I probably should have planted those a little bit sooner so that they would be blooming when my cucumbers are growing. But I am giving that a try. More cucumbers here that are starting to go up the trellis. Some weeds. And kohlrabi. Again, I had this whole bed full of garlic, and to maximize growing space, I started interplanting in this bed. So in this one, pretty much by the time I harvest the garlic, the bed is gonna just still be full. Now this is the Amish variety of garlic, which is a little bit later to mature, so I'm not gonna harvest it yet. But in here I've got some brassicas. I'm not sure if those are, I think that's broccoli, some more broccoli that got planted a little bit late. And it is showing some not so great signs. So there's caterpillar poop, which means, oh yeah, right there's the caterpillar. That is a cabbage moth caterpillar. We're gonna smush him because that's what's putting all these holes in the leaves. Now again, this broccoli was planted a little bit late, so that's part of the reason it's not thriving. But then also, yeah, the cabbage worm or cabbage moths got to it. I saw quite a few of the cabbage moths in the garden last week, so I kind of knew that I was probably going to come back to a bunch of caterpillars. And sure enough, you can see there's another one. And looking for their poop and the damage to the leaves is one of the easiest ways to know if they're there, because they blend in. But if you see the poop and you see the leaf damage, you know to look for the caterpillars and just smush them. That's the best thing to do for them. I won't show you, but check my vole trap. Okay, it's empty. Good. Also in here, I had sowed beans. So there's a row of beans here. They're growing really well between the beans. And by the time that they really start to bush out, they're growing really well between the garlic. And by the time they start to really bush out, I will have harvested the garlic. Pepper plant, an alyssum, and a sowing I did of carrots. It's a little sparse in its germination, but they're in there. There's some more back there. I got some weeds going on here. I put some compost on that had some extra weed seeds, which happens, but I'm not super concerned because what I'll do is I'll pull the weeds and keep up with them. It's easy to pull them, especially when they're small, and then it won't take long until all of the weed seeds germinate and they're gone, and then I won't have to weed as much here. Basil tucked in and some golden zucchini. that had a little bit of cucumber beetle damage, but overall did well and outgrew the pest damage. They don't like this variety as much either. So they're taking off, and they'll really fill in this space here because I have 3 of them planted. They'll really fill in, especially by the time the garlic comes out. They'll actually take over. I may end up removing one of the plants to give the others more space. But once I pull the garlic out, I'll see if there's any available room in there to tuck some transplants in. But for the most part, because I've been interplanting, that bed is gonna just continue to be full and productive, which I love. All right, over here, I have some zinnias. I can't wait to see them bloom. They're supposed to be a beautiful peach color. Pepper plant I tucked in there. Some more kohlrabi tucked in there from transplants. And cabbage that I've been checking for pests. I see a little bit of damage. Oh, there must be a worm there because I see the poop. So yeah, coming back through and removing caterpillars is high on my priority list today. I'm also going to remove some of this lettuce. I'll harvest this Aunt May's bib lettuce for us to eat. Here's my other volunteer sunflower. All this lettuce will come out. There's a volunteer tomato in my sage. That's going to have to go because it won't do well there. There's no trellis. And my onions, I'll pull this lettuce out so that my onions have more room to grow and bulb, but they are definitely starting to bulb, which is great. These are long day onions, which is important. We're in central Pennsylvania, or here we want to grow long day onions so that they have time to grow their leaves. They'll grow and put their energy into their leaves until we reach about 14 hours of daylight. And then they'll switch their focus to producing their bulbs. So we want them to have a nice amount of time to grow their leaves before they start to bulb up, which is why we don't want to grow short day onions. You would think, oh, I'll get faster onions if I grow short day, but that doesn't work. They won't produce enough leaves. They'll just try to bulb. But if you're in the south, you would want to grow short day onions. So here we grow long day onions. I have had the best success growing them from seed and transplanting them. And now is when they, mid-June is when I really start to see them bulbing up because we reach the longest daylight. And now they're going to be, really growing and bulbing. I did harvest 2 onions last week to take with us on our trip. But I'll just start harvesting 1 every so often as I need it. I'll harvest the larger ones. And then I'll just watch for the tops to start to fall over. And at that point, I will harvest all of the onions. But I prefer to kind of harvest them and use them as I need them as much as possible. Use them fresh, and then I'll store what I need to. Look at this. I'm not sure what variety of lettuce this is, but look at that. That's gorgeous. It was one of the heirloom blend lettuces. This is a bean I grew and tried to transplant. It just got really leggy, so that might have been a failed experiment. These are sugar snap peas that are still producing like crazy. We've been eating lots and lots of those. The flavor this week, the flavor started to slightly decrease. They weren't quite as sweet, but they're still really good. So we're gonna keep eating those, and then in a week or 2, I'll probably pull those plants out. I do have a tomato planted in here. It's being a little bit shaded and bullied by the peas. Actually, there's another one back there too. So they're just kind of hanging out there, not doing a whole lot, but as soon as I pull the peas, they should really take off and grow. So, you know, maybe another week and I'll get the peas out of their way. This is my oregano that is gigantic right now. Also over here, another bed of Amish garlic. I will let these go for another week, maybe 2 weeks, because they need some more time to mature. Then all of those will come out. I'll pull the straw back so that my compost is revealed that's under there. And then that's where I'm going to plant a lot of my fall crops later in July. Now over here I have some more lettuce I planted last week. There's some more of that Ice Queen, Aunt May's Bib lettuce, a few weeds, but really there's not that many weeds, which is awesome. And by doing no-till or no-dig and really keeping up with the weeds and hoeing once a week to get any weeds in the white thread stage, I don't have too many weed problems. There's a ton of hoverflies on that sweet alyssum, which is great to see. Tomatoes that they need redirected back through their trellis, but they are growing really well. This cabbage is showing some more damage too, which is a bummer because it was looking really good, but this one has a nice head on it. If I start to see too much damage, I'll harvest some of this early, but for now I'm just going to go through and pick off the caterpillars and try and let that grow a little bit longer. This is the squash that I showed you 2 weeks ago that was like on its last leg from the cucumber beetles, but you can see it has bounced back and is growing amazing, which is why sometimes don't be too quick to pull a plant if it's struggling. They were really looking rough, but I let them go and they're looking great. And it probably won't be too long until I have squash on there. I have some skyscraper sunflowers back there. I'm gonna again prune some of these tomatoes and guide them back through the trellis. There's a dahlia there. And some lettuce that I've been, again, tucking in lettuce everywhere that I can. Some more sunflowers and calendula. Look at these tomatoes. They're looking so good. That's just one tomato plant. That's a homestead tomato plant. It is doing amazing. That dahlia is looking great. That was a volunteer squash plant. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to let it grow because it volunteered and it survived the cucumber beetles. So it can grow. It has earned its place in my garden. Some more lettuce. This lettuce is about ready to harvest, but maybe we'll have that for supper. Cosmos that I planted there, pepper plant. And you can pretty much see all of my brassicas are showing pest damage. These are supposed to be a purple cauliflower. I don't know, we'll see if they survive the caterpillars because I see a bunch of them on there. Tiny Tim tomato, some more gorgeous lettuce, zinnias and sunflowers that I tucked in there. This is that summertime lettuce that I said I was not impressed with, but I may actually change my mind. It's bouncing back from the cucumber beetle damage. I think they decided to go eat something else. So we'll see once I actually taste it, how we like that. But it's starting to seem to grow better. And so yeah, I'm going to give that another chance, even though I said at first I didn't think I was going to like it. This is a cauliflower head that I let go too long. So it would not be very appetizing. I'm going to put that in the compost. But we had a bunch of successful cauliflower harvests this spring, including some nice side shoots, which looks like there's another nice side shoot, so I'll harvest that. And then these plants will probably all come out because they're about done. Some nice broccoli side shoots. I'm gonna harvest all of those today. Give the broccoli plants a little bit more time to see if they put out more side shoots, and then they will go to the compost. Here's some more of my onions. So these are Florence. They have a longer name, that's all I can remember at the moment. Florence. And this is about the size that they get. So I'll start harvesting those as I want to use them. Some more gorgeous lettuce. Marigolds, lots of lots of caterpillar problems, but there's some cauliflower down in there I will harvest. Kohlrabi coming along. So yeah, you can see there's definitely some pest pressure, and that, you know, that happens. That's part of gardening. You can also see some plants are starting to look a little rough just because they're ending or reaching the end of their life cycle. Again, that's part of gardening, especially succession sowing, is you always have some that are growing well and ready to harvest. You have some that are reaching the end of their life cycle, and you have a lot more that's going in. This lettuce I will harvest soon. Few weeds creeping in the edge here, and I tucked a bunch more lettuce in here where it gets a little bit of shade. Some pepper plants that will really take off once I take the cauliflower out, and my next succession of beets that are really starting to look good. If I wanted to, I could harvest some of the beet leaves for salad or for cooking. We don't need to because I have so much chard and lettuce, but again, you can eat a lot of different crops in a lot of different ways to maximize your production. So we could eat those. A few weeds here, but not bad. I'll just pull those out. And these are really just because it's the edge of the bed, and I just need to keep those cleaned up along the edge. This is more cauliflower. Can't really see it's hidden down in there, but that's a nice cauliflower. Again, some of those I could let go a little bit longer, but because I know there's so many caterpillars around, I will harvest some of that early just so we get to eat it and the caterpillars don't. And another volunteer plant, that looks like probably a cucumber. So it's gonna get to grow, and we'll see what it does because it is obviously thriving there without any help from me. And more lettuce planted in here. So my goal is to have fresh lettuce to eat all season long. And what that means is always tucking in lettuce transplants, trying heat tolerant varieties, and giving them a little bit of shade. But it works, and often I have more lettuce than we need, which is okay because I can share it or it can go to the compost pile. Here's some little tiny beets. Those transplants were a little small when I put them in, but I wanted to get them in before we left. And they're doing okay. It looks like they'll survive. And two last things I want to show you. This is my insect bed here. I've shown before in other tours that I dedicate this area completely to growing flowers for insects and leaving plant material over winter for them to live on and in. I have a few thistles I need to come through and pull, and some weeds here, but it's really starting to fill it in. Got some calendula blooming, echinops, chives, echinacea. This is a different variety of echinacea. Can't remember the name at the moment, but it has those narrower petals. There's some borage, Rudbeckia, Coreopsis. Oh look, there's a poppy. I threw some poppy seeds in here early spring and actually forgot about them, but there's one poppy. Yeah, I gotta do some weeding in here, but oh, my bee balm. Beautiful bee balm is starting to bloom. Look at that. In a day or two, that's gonna just be exploding with blossoms. You can already see too, there's bugs and insects all over that, and it's not even at full bloom yet. And marshmallow. Oh, and you can see the nice lovely dark sky back there, which means we're probably gonna get a storm pretty directly. But this is marshmallow. It's got these tiny white flowers on, kind of like hollyhock. It's beautiful. So this area I'm filling in with more and more perennials. And then this is the start of my food forest. Huge learning experience for me, but you know, you got to start somewhere, and I always say to start with a small manageable area and then go, you know, expand from there. So I have chives that I planted at each corner. I also filled in with some annual flowers to get some quick growing flowers and cover the surface of the soil. But I've got 3 raspberries that I planted spaced out, and then I've got strawberries, 1 variety along that side and 1 variety along this side. I did lose 1 strawberry plant, but I wasn't watering, and so that happened. And then I planted some watermelon in here. Again, you know, those are an annual, but they'll cover the ground, they'll help suppress weeds, help with soil health. They'll grow this year, and then as I fill in with perennial plants and as the raspberries spread, you know, obviously I won't plant watermelon again, but I tucked those in and they're doing really well. So the start of my food forest, I'll keep you updated on how that goes. And then my compost piles, because compost is so important, especially in my garden system. So this is the compost that I've been using. It could be a little bit more composted, but I've been using it as needed. I started it last year. This compost I filled from April until early June, and I stopped adding to it. And it has already gone down by about half in size. So it was much higher, and you can tell it's composting because it has gone down in size a lot. And that I will probably use late fall to give everything a fall covering of compost, or for any new beds that I decide to start this fall. And then this is my compost that I have been adding to now and will continue adding to through fall. And I'll use hay bales to stack up and keep it neat and tidy. I use hay bales because that's what we have available. And then eventually they get added to the compost pile themselves. All right, that is my garden update and tour for this week. I've got a lot of work to do, but that's a good thing. And hopefully I can get some of it done before this storm comes. It's looking a little ominous over there. If you have questions, let me know. I would love to help you and inspire you in your gardening journey. And I really encourage you to find joy in gardening, find the style that works for you and embrace it and really love your garden. It makes it all worth it, even when the pests come. If you learned anything from this video or just enjoyed the video, I would love if you go to our website, theheirloomfarmer.com, and subscribe to our email list. That is the best way to support our family farm, and it enables me to make more gardening videos and content for you. So please go to theheirloomfarmer.com and subscribe to our email list. Also, I would love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below and let me know how your garden is going this year. Thank you, and God bless.